I'm here in the seat of corruption in the Southern District of New York, down by the courthouse. This is all the courthouses, right? We've got 500 Pearl Street. What is it, 40? I don't know how they come up with these different addresses, but this is the U.S. District Court, the Second Circuit Appellate Court. I'm not sure which is which. One of them is, 40 Foley Square, 500 Pearl Street. I don't know. That over there is the U.S. District Court. But then this is too. I don't know, offices maybe. I think the court rooms are up in there. That's where I go to get yelled at by Caproni. That's the FBI in that federal building. And then over here is where we've seen, Trump hauled in a bunch of times. New York Superior Court, or whatever the hell they call it. That's the state court. We've got all these inconsistencies throughout our court systems. You got the Court of Common Pleas in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I'm going to be learning more about that pretty soon. But I came down here today, once again, for multiple reasons. First, because we need to talk about lawfare. And not just throw around the term like morons do, such as Dan Bongino, who thankfully will not be the director of the Secret Service. Perhaps Donald Trump knows more about this than some people might have presumed. And not like Dershowitz, who talks about it. I don't know, we're not going to talk about those guys today. I want to talk about the lawfare that was happening in the second day of confirmation hearings in the Senate for Pam Bondi, the highly competent, it seems to me, woman who now is poised to become the top law enforcement officer in the land, the U.S. Attorney General. She strikes me as an excellent candidate for that, maybe even better than Matt Gaetz. Oh, look, a TRX. Love it. Get one of these too and race it against the Raptor. That's not what we're here to talk about, though. Lawfare. And then the other reason I'm down here is I do believe I finally have a good handle on the proper operation of this failover system. And I think it's possible that today, right now, for the first time, it's configured correctly. I have an indicator here now. So that's good. I don't think I was using it properly before. And I wanted to come right back to exactly where we had the worst kind of interference the other day and put it to the test. So Rudy Giuliani missed a hearing over there yesterday, and now he's had a settlement. I haven't really gotten too much into the details on that, but if people were paying close attention to the Pam Bondi confirmation hearing yesterday, we had some witnesses who were testifying before the Senate. And remember that those congressional hearings, it's not the same as court. So these aren't witnesses who are like necessarily involved in any way. They're sort of expert witnesses, or, the Senate or whoever picks them, opinion of expert witnesses. We had some interesting people in there. We had Mary McCord, and what's this other woman's name? It's slipping my mind, but it was crazy. Normally, the Democrats, whoever is in charge of the committee, right? You've got the chairperson and then the ranking member. So the ranking member is sort of like the top of the bottom. If the Republicans have the majority in the Senate, it's a Republican who is the committee chairman, and a Democrat who becomes the, stanking member, the ranking member. I believe, remember, I'm not an attorney, so nothing I ever say is legal advice, and I could be wrong. I'm like ChatGPT. Check important information. I can make mistakes. They tell you that in ChatGPT, and man, is that correct. But anyway, the point is, normally when they have three people sitting there, two of them are picked by the, what do you call it, controlling party? the people who are in charge of the committee, and then one is picked by the opposition. So normally, if you have a Republican-led Senate, that means two. Here's a genius. What are you doing, man? You're about to crash into me with a fucking bicycle. Get it off the sidewalk. Guy's an idiot. We're here at the court and he's riding a bicycle on the sidewalk. Anyway, normally, what is this stupid guy yelling about? So normally, if it's a Republican-controlled Senate, you're going to have two, like, blatantly pro-Republican or former Republican people testifying, and one moron from the Democrats. But that's not what we had. Is going on? You got a lot of shady business going on down here. What the hell is this? Vibranalysis. It's monitoring. I guess monitoring vibrations. What's vibrating? Are they looking at these cars? Just looking at the street. What is that? This is not what we had with this Pam Bondi hearing. Pam Bondi, or whoever chooses those people, the witnesses, they brought in Democrats. And these Democrats, one of them was a guy who had run in Florida against Pam Bondi to become the Florida Attorney General. And lost. I didn't know about this guy before. I watched it this morning. It happened yesterday. But anyway, I forget the guy's name, but he's another genius on a bicycle on the sidewalk. The cops do nothing around here. The guy who lost to Pam Bondi, he made a point of saying that even after he lost to her, she appointed him to lead some special prosecutorial thing to go after fentanyl pill mills in Florida, and that 98 out of 100 of the top prescribing doctors in the nation were in Florida, and that it was a national disgrace, and that they rolled it up. And these Democrat guys had nothing but absolute praise for Pam Bondi, talking about how fantastic she is, how non-political she is, how unbiased she is, how much she follows the law and goes by the book and all that, and isn't swayed by politics. It was kind of amazing. Because anytime you see somebody in one of these congressional things not lying their ass off, it's a bit of a shock, to me at least. So the other thing that was interesting is we also had these witnesses in there who were against Pam Bondi, I guess quite obviously selected by the Senate Democrats in that committee, which is like Amy Klobuchar and Adam Schiff and Hirono, whatever the hell her name is, that stupid lady. But I mean, Adam Schiff, boy, talk about you're super objectionable and incredibly involved in criminal lawfare. Schiff is just, it's brazen. And of course, people are focused on, he's trying to ask Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi wasn't there, but the day before, Schiff was asking Pam Bondi, if she is going to recuse herself and not investigate Jack Smith, and, they're questioning all of her statements about we're going to investigate the investigators and we're going to prosecute the prosecutors. They're like, oh, that's outrageous. You can't do that. It's like, yeah, but you can, because we've got prosecutorial misconduct all over the goddamn place. like crazy. It's become one of the biggest problems in the nation. People might have seen yesterday I had an interview with Douglas Mackey. What a nice guy. I was pleased to meet Douglas. That's the first time we've ever spoken. We've just had real minimal communication through Twitter, through XDM, which, by the way, that was brave of him. He doesn't know me or my agenda. Come on the show like that. Douglas is an impressive guy. And by the way, he was just having fun, sharing memes on Twitter, and they're treating him like a terrorist, putting him on criminal trial for 8 years, draining all his money, sucking the life out of the poor guy. They even convicted him and wanted to put him in federal prison. Thank goodness he was able to muster the strength and have the wherewithal to do a fundraising campaign to pay for lawyers who prevented him from going to jail ultimately. That would have been a horrible outcome. 7 months in federal prison. I mean, who would even want to spend 7 days in federal prison? That type of incarceration needs to be preserved for the most dangerous criminals. I mean, there's a cost associated with putting somebody in jail, but that's the least of it. You can't go disrupting somebody's life. What happens if the first day he steps into jail, somebody punches him in the head and you could lose an eye, you could get killed easily. And these sick, demented prosecutors, they just don't like his Hillary Clinton memes and they want to throw him in jail. Absolutely, we need to prosecute the prosecutors, without question. So Adam Schiff, he should be worried. Pam Bondi must be confirmed, and she must immediately start investigating. They're trying to force her to recuse herself from any kind of investigation, and then the next step would be for them to insinuate some, impotent jackass into that position who will not go after them and will waste a ton of time like Durham and come to some conclusion that ultimately does nothing. So hopefully, I think Pam Bondi is smarter than that, and I don't think they're going to succeed, but Lawfare will not relent. We see. That hearing, they're explaining to you what their next, here we go, criminals. Look at how they're looking at me. They know they're criminals. They're waiting to lay out their counterfeit goods, or they're waiting for some Chinese truck to show up. This guy's got the Danger HQ. Paintworks NYC. I don't know what he's up to. And oh look, so here's CBD Central. We saw this the other day, right. So I'm retracing the steps here. I think I remember that street where it consistently fails, and hopefully we'll have defeated it today. But so back to this Pam Bondi confirmation hearing. There's a great article this morning or yesterday in Conservative Treehouse. I haven't prepared it to share with everyone, but it's explaining the very central role that Mary McCord has played in all of this lawfare. It's a good article. I agree with probably 95% of what's in there. I couldn't tell if they were being sarcastic or if they actually believe this, but at one point they talk about how, you remember that guy Kleinsmith, the FBI lawyer who got charged with falsifying evidence? This article said that it had tricked, what's the guy's name? Boasberg, I think, is the judge in the FISA court. And he's also a criminal judge in Washington, D.C. That shouldn't be allowed, because it worked out that he was presiding over the Kleinsmith case where he falsified the evidence that was presented to this judge. Now, this thing says that the judge was deceived. I don't think that's what happened. Based on what I know about how these lawfare judges operate, I would think that that judge is involved and that he knows everything that's going on. Kind of like Valerie Caproni. We've got to look more into that Judge Boasberg. I mean, it raised good and interesting points. Even if I disagree whether I'm right or they're right, I didn't know too much about that nexus between, with Boasberg being involved in both of those cases. But it's interestingly similar to Judge Caproni and what she's trying to do with Felix Sater. Right? You get the right judge on the right set of cases. These idiots are in there talking about recusal. They are the biggest liars anywhere around, and they're all doing all of the things that they're saying, oh no, Pam Bondi might do this. That's what they do. It's like George's asshole brother sends me a letter yesterday saying, oh, remember, you can't represent your father in court. I know that. I'm not a lawyer. I don't intend to represent anybody in court. But how sick is that? Another component of lawfare. And it's not some unrelated thing. George and his brother are part of this. Ian Carroll must know that, and if he doesn't, I've told him. So Ian Carroll is a social engineer and or an idiot / liar. You hear me, Ian? I knew that the second you showed up. Gave you the benefit of the doubt. He's slick, I'll give him that. He's a better actor than George. But that guy should not be trusted, in my opinion. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm just sharing information as I see it. Allow everybody to come to their own conclusions. If you like what I'm saying, I would ask that you become a sponsor on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. That's the best way to do it. As little as $3 per month. Now, is it that street or this street? Let's do the whole walk and see. We'll meander and see. You're going to see me become irate. Or actually, that might happen off camera if it cuts. But I've made a lot of changes to this system to shore it up against this interference. I'm talking about radio interference now. It's complicated. I don't know that much about radio stuff. I'm not a radio expert. Kind of like the law. I'm aware of certain aspects of it, but I'm far from an expert. But yet, we're bombarded by radio waves and surrounded by them, sort of like the law. Experts who know about these things could certainly do things to me or other people who are swimming around in this soup, and then we'd be confused. We won't know what to do, how to defend. But as Hawkins used to tell us, Blaise Pascal, who I never heard of before David told me, he said we have an obligation to think hard. And when you don't know how to solve a problem, you can't walk away from it. Not necessarily. You got to think hard about how to solve it. We have that obligation. So I've changed a number of things about the way this works, and that's what I've been doing in my counter lawfare approach as well. You know, I'm not going to listen to an attorney who tells me, oh, you can't do that. This is a federal judge. Are you crazy? Whoever you are, if you are breaking the law, particularly to deprive me of my rights and help other people steal my money, I am going to use the law to make sure that you see justice. I don't give a shit if you are a federal judge, the President of the United States, or the King of fucking Siam. I don't care. You could be the whole entire NYPD. I don't care. Okay? So let's talk about Mary McCord. This article in the Conservative Treehouse, it's very good. It goes into a lot of detail. It's a very tall Instagram model. She looks great. We're right here in the radio soup. So Mary McCord is sitting there, and she's announcing their next lawfare strategy. Not exactly. You've got to know the history and read between the lines and all that sort of stuff, but she is. They basically know it's kind of better that we have Pam Bondi there instead of Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz was, I don't think he had the kind of background that Pam Bondi does, as she was the Attorney General of Florida. Gaetz was essentially a lawyer who, for the past several years, he wasn't even practicing. Maybe he was a prosecutor. I don't know that much about Matt Gaetz' history as a lawyer, but it seems like more of his time in his young career. He's younger than me, so he's younger than Pam Bondi. So there was definitely either that next block. So far, this is a good test. Point is, Matt Gaetz was too controversial, and these Senate hearings would have been chock-a-block filled with these fake allegations against him about sex with whoever and all the whatever stuff that we know these totally not credible scallywags brought these charges against Matt Gaetz in the same way that George, his idiot brother, and their moron associates have brought fake allegations against me that persist to this day. That's another component of lawfare, right? All of these senators, and some of them are victims of social engineering. I honestly believe that. They're drunk dopes. They're old men and old ladies who just sit there and are like, hey, this is the easiest job ever. Everybody buys me dinner and kisses my ass. I'll just keep doing this. But they're going on about January 6th and how, certainly if Pam Bondi is gonna, or if Trump is gonna pardon these violent January 6th insurrectionists. See, that was the one slightly confusing thing. Mary McCord was saying, no, we can't pardon all January 6th people. I agree with that, but that's not like, okay, broken clock is right twice a day. There's some other trick in there. We just don't yet understand what it is. But when I say I don't think all January 6th people should be pardoned, I'm talking about Jonathan Earl Sullivan, Ray Epps, people like that. Frankly, even if somebody did do violence against the police, if they were provoked to that violence by a fake event staged by the same people who were behind all this lawfare, that's a complicated and nuanced thing that needs to be looked at, particularly if that person has already spent time in jail. Maybe it's not a pardon, maybe it's a commutation of the sentence. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. None of this blanket anything. I don't go for that. And the people who are calling for blanket stuff, see, that might even be a component of the lawfare. That makes sense. So Mary McCord is in there saying, oh, no, we can't have blanket pardons. Then, separately, they've got fake MAGA influencers, whoever they are. It's hard sometimes to know. A lot of people see, January 6th person, I like this person. I definitely recommend that if you are not yet following Free State Will on X, people should follow him. He knows a lot about who's for real and who isn't on January 6th. That's William Pope. He is a nonviolent January 6th protester who has been defending pro se. He might be the only, I think he mentioned there's somebody else, but there's not too many January 6th defendants who did their criminal defense as pro se defendants. That's ballsy. And I'm glad they did it, because I think a lot of the lawyers that these people got were just interested in fundraising and sticking them in jail. I mean, look, lawyers want to basically get paid, get your case resolved, and mitigate whatever. Lawyers are like doctors. When you're in, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, when you're in the hospital, or when you have a family member in the hospital, and I've been in this position firsthand, I get it. That everybody's like, oh my God, I want every resource in this hospital trained on my person to make sure they live, because this is my father, my mother, my brother, my wife, my sister, whatever, most important person in the world to me. See, now it did just do something, but not the same. I hope we are able to not lose the broadcast there. So there's some real strong radio something over there, but it's now affecting the system differently. I should have been looking right at that. We might have just lost. And now it is something happening there. Let's see. Can we recover this? Wow, okay. So that didn't solve it. There's something really bad that happens right here. Okay. Interesting. What is that? Let's see if we can get it back through some other creative means. I would hate to lose this broadcast. Huh. Oh, it might be working. Come on, cooperate. All right. So we've seemingly defeated that failure mode. Good. Okay. Some degree of progress. Like I said, we're still relying on radio signals, so there's going to be things that can disrupt. This is why I can't talk too much about what's going on, because the more details I provide, I don't think that's anything deliberate. I guess it's somebody... What is over there? See, that thing says AV. Maybe there's some sort of... I don't know. Do we see any kind of crazy radio deal operating in this neighborhood? Anyway, if that's the only place where that particular failure happens, I guess the best bet is just avoid that place. Anyway, William Pope, he knows a lot about who's fake and who's real. So, what would make sense from a lawfare standpoint is if you've got MAGA influencers, particularly those who might have the ear of Donald Trump. And we've seen this, like Jack Posobiec has published pictures of himself with Trump, and Trump has endorsed that stupid Jack Posobiec book. So either Trump thinks Jack Posobiec is a smart guy who understands what's going on with the assassination attempt in Butler, or he's trying to deceive. Wow, what a nice person. Look, this woman is just walking down the street and she saw a crashed bottle and she's picking it up so that other people won't get hurt. You're a remarkable individual.
Oh, I dropped it. So
oh, you dropped it? Okay,
yeah.
All right, well, still good. Most people would just walk away from it. You're a loser. Traffic cops. You should be giving tickets to people riding bikes. Oh, you're getting a ticket right now. I don't know if you know that. See, he doesn't care. UPS will just pay the ticket. So that's almost a racket where the city gets money from UPS, the drivers don't care, you're just paying more to ship packages around, because how many millions of dollars of tickets are these guys funneling to the city? And that jackass, instead of making the sidewalks safer by giving out tickets to people who are riding bicycles, which they absolutely could do, it's just scam after scam everywhere you go. Look at this very alert canine. I like him. Or her. Hello, dog. Oh, it's kind of an old one, huh? You can tell by the gray face. But it looks like a friendly dog. So you've got MAGA influencers who could be out there saying, oh yeah, pardon everybody. Try to sway Trump to pardon everybody. Then you've got Mary McCord laying this bait of, oh no, you can't pardon everybody. That would give rise to a constitutional conflict or whatever the hell the problem is she's trying to explain there. And then if Trump does that, obviously these lawfare scoundrels will seize upon it as a method for how to, nail Trump. That's why I call this lawfare will not relent, because it won't. They're just going to keep going with this. And even when you think you have them defeated, they pivot. That's why I like Turley and all these guys who are like, oh, lawfare is over. It's going to end. Will it end? No, it will not end. Not until multiple people are locked in jail, disbarred so they can't do anything anymore, locked in jail, and all the peripheral people around them become so afraid that that might happen to them, then they might stop. But it's not about just locking up Mary McCord or just prosecuting Mary McCord or just prosecuting Andrew McCabe. Andrew Weissman, McCabe too. But it's not like it's one person who's sitting on the top of all this. There are people who are more senior, of course. But so there was this other woman, what was her name? Maybe Lisa Gilbert, I think. I've got her here in this thumbnail image, right? That's her with Mary McCord. So who is this Lisa Gilbert? She's part of this thing called Public Citizen. Public Citizen is what she's part of. And it says, democracy is not for sale. Money out. Voters in. Well, that's funny. The failover system can still fail. I guess. I don't know. Maybe with the buffer it's okay. It's crazy. Walking around New York City is very difficult to keep this going. Seems like it's still good. Anyway, oh well, sorry. That thing was about to tell us all about this stupid lady. Let's let it play again. It's too bad I can't fast forward. So Public Citizen is another one of these, non-profit organizations. And here's the thing. We know about 501c3s. They can't get involved in political stuff. Or at least you can't tax deduct your contributions. There she is, Lisa Gilbert and Robert Weissman. He's not related to Andrew Weissman as far as I know. They spell their names differently. But this is telling us some stuff about this stupid lady. Throughout her career at Public Citizen, she's been there helping them build, blah, 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 where they're fighting bloated special interests. I mean, it's all a bunch of happy horse shit that sounds good and looks good on a web page, but that is total crap. She is a liar, and this organization should be investigated. I'll tell you why. So here is this is the latest 990, I believe, or the 2002 from Public Citizen Inc. See, it's a 501c4. The checkbox is to the left of the designation. So this thing is allowed to involve itself in partisan political activity because of the restrictions and the way 501c4s are set up. Of course, we have an ambulance. There she is, Lisa Gilbert. She's the executive vice president, and she's earning all this money. 80,000. What do we got there? She's earning well over 100,000. She's got 80,000, 96,000, 29,000. Well, what are these different payments? One of them is compensation from the organization, and then the other is from related organizations, and then the third one is from this organization and related organizations, which frankly just sounds like related organizations to me. So what's the related organization? It's a 501c3. Right? Did we get to that? Here. This thing is the Public Citizen Foundation. That is a 501c3. So how is this not simply just taking advantage of a loophole where the majority of the money gets funneled through the 501c3 so that the donors get the maximum type of tax deduction, and you can pay these people the maximum amount out of tax-exempt funds so that we, the people, are subsidizing the criminal activities of these lawfare scumbags while they mask their political activity with this minimally funded 501c4 and have all the money flowing into it from an almost virtually identically named 501c3. Incidentally, this virtual naming scheme matches quite closely what I allege George's brother did to get me sued in the Emmys case. And the reason is he's playing from the same playbook as all of these assholes. He is, litigation support, or whatever you want to call it, to this Lawfare network, and it is a big network. We've just found another set of nonprofits that are part of that network, this, Public Citizen, or whatever the hell that thing is called. Okay? So that thing is in there. It's presented to you, the public, and the Senate that represents you as, hey, these are, different people that we've brought in to testify about this today. They're not related. But I don't think that's true. Even though it might not be written on the page, I'm thinking there is coordination happening between these nonprofits and the lawfare criminals. Mary McCord. Remember, Mary McCord was sitting there right on stage with Andrew Weissman when I confronted him about his relationship with Felix Sater, which he lied about. Well, now, why would he do that? Because if you start digging into Andrew Weissman's relationship with Felix Sater, you might learn that they signed a secret cooperation agreement in 1998 when Andrew Weissman was with the Department of Justice. He was an assistant U.S. attorney with the Eastern District of New York. Same U.S. attorney's office that jammed up our friend Doug Mackey. Long history of corruption in that office. That's where Burl Howell came out of. That's where Jack Smith came out of. Jack Smith was under Andrew Weissman, probably literally. Somebody had some stupid article about Andrew Weissman's wife. Andrew Weissman is not married. Never has been. He is a card-carrying friend of Dorothy. That man is familiar with the taste of semen, if you know what I'm talking about. No wife. So that's disinformation. Charles hates that word, but there are people who deliberately put out false information. The problem is it's the same people who want to have a disinformation governance board so that they can decide that the truth is false and that their nonsense is factual. So there's obvious coordination there. Felix Sater, in that deposition before Jared Beck, Donald Trump told us that Felix Sater has been contacting and been involved with the Trump organization since around 2000. He's a Clinton guy. He became a made man under Bill Clinton. What a mess over here. So he's in there spying on Trump in the same way that George Webb was spying on me. It's not exactly spying, that's a bad word. They become these embedded clandestine operatives who are there to just place themselves within the organization, and they don't necessarily know what they're going to use these guys for at the time that they get placed in there. They just want someone deeply embedded in the organization because they know there's just myriad ways in which somebody like that can be activated at a later time and create chaos. They, Ashley Cassidy Hutchinson, right? Bring her out, get her to testify about, a fat 70-something-year-old guy squeezing through the window of a limousine to fight with a, law enforcement guy in his 30s. It's absurd. But yet she sat there and said it, and they read it into the record. They stipulate this nonsense as fact. And that's what they're trying to do there. These are the building blocks of lawfare. They want Pam Bondi on the record saying, oh yeah, this election was, Trump lost, or whatever the hell they're trying to get her to say. They're trying to stipulate all kinds of bullshit. Well, that guy turned away the second he had a camera and was listening to what I was saying. But they love that, stipulated facts. That's what George's brother is trying to do through discovery. That's why he's so frothing at the mouth for this discovery phase of the case. We're going to find out if Judge Colt is part of this lawfare cabal or not. I don't yet know. But we're going to find out very soon, maybe within days. There's a lot of influence over the judges and the outcomes of cases in the Southern District of New York. There needs to be a thorough investigation of the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District and the Eastern District of New York and the district courts. Caproni should be part of that investigation. James L. Cott got to get investigated. Jessica G.L. Clark got to be investigated. She's also got to be investigated in terms of what the hell Letitia James has been doing with Jimmy Rodriguez and the Eric Adams crime syndicate. That's a big one. We've learned a lot from Sal Greco and John McCarry and Eric Dim. Those guys know what's going on. They just had a very good space last night. That's the Finest Unfiltered podcast. I think I posted that on my X. If people aren't yet following me on X at JG_CSTT, a lot of good information there on X. What is this? We have Hasidic weed for sale? Don't ask me that.
Shut the fuck! Before I come crack you in your head down. What are you?
So where are the police?
Crack you up? Shut the fuck. Now shut the fuck. Mind your business.
See, even the fact that there's a camera here at all is
Shut
calming
the
this guy
fuck.
down.
Because I'll crack you. Shut up. Because you're an asshole. And you had a big mouth. And you know how to mind your business. Is it any of your fucking business? Yes, no. How? No. Don't make everything your business. Your own. Shut the fuck. Just like that. Shut the fuck. Hey.
This guy's trying to have a logical conversation with a lunatic. Where are the police? Why can an incident like that go on for that long as people ride bicycles through the place? Here's a guy sporting an Art Vistham style. What do they call that thing again? I hate that device. Easy rig. Such a piece of crap. I just absolutely hate the easy rig. And some low rent camera operator always wants to rent his easy rig to the production. Just hate those. So the Southern District of New York is just thoroughly corrupt. We see the same tricks happening here in the FISA court and in Washington, D.C. I mean, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. These lawfare criminals decided, hey, you know what? If we can control the U.S. attorneys and the district courts in New York and D.C., so much stuff goes on there. See, and we heard from Douglas Mackey yesterday how they have tricks for how to get you into those courts when they need you to be there. They just said, oh, the internet has a wire that goes underwater through Brooklyn. So even if you, by the way, how do they know? Does all internet traffic go over that? What if he was using Starlink or a VPN to go to another country? Is it always going through Brooklyn, or do they just make that up and then the judge is like, oh, I don't know about the internet, okay. There's a lot of times they do that, you know, just say something that goes over the judge's head, and if the judge lets it go, then it goes. I think people who have not been through court have too much confidence in the incorrect assumption that we have sensible laws and that everything's going to work out fine, and that court is run in an orderly manner and no one can take advantage of that process and everything works as it's supposed to. That is just wrong. That is incorrect. It's not the way it works, frankly, almost ever. And lawyers, particularly dishonest ones, they know that, and they're able to manipulate this process. And corrupt lawyers who play the game with the corrupt judges move up through this, system, and then they themselves become judges. So all that crap they're writing about Miss Gilbert there on the website about, oh, her whole career in this stupid nonprofit where we're paying her, $200,000 or $300,000 to be a criminal. First of all, she's been indoctrinated. They probably brought her in as an intern where she was like, I'm working with all these fancy lawyers in Washington, D.C., people who I see on MSNBC. When Andrew Weissman lied and said he doesn't know Felix Sater, I left the room, and then he said, oh, ha, see that? There's free speech. People can say whatever they want peacefully. He didn't answer the question. He made a joke out of it, so everybody thought, oh, that guy, Jason, is some ranting and raving pro-Trump lunatic We have here our illustrious law professor who used to be the FBI general counsel and was a prosecutor. Ooh, this guy has such a great career. What they don't know is the actual fact, which is that Andrew Weissman is a dishonest, evil scumbag. I'm sure, even if he wasn't directly personally involved with that Douglas Mackey case, all the people who were young lawyers under Weissman in the Eastern District U.S. Attorney's Office. And he passes that down, right? The people who would be like me, who would say, hey, wait a minute, you can't do this. You get run out early on. No promotions, treat you badly. You know all the ways people can make you want to leave a job. So we're at a really important moment here for the history of the country. Because without justice, we have nothing. We literally have criminals running the Justice Department and jailing honest people and taking the rights and the money of honest people. George's brother will not prevail and cannot even be allowed to persist further if these courts want to claim to be involved in any way with justice. You can't allow a lunatic to waste judicial resources for 8 years like this, threaten to sue an 80-year-old plus individual who he's never met, has no grounds to sue, purely malicious, vindictive, the possibility of irreparable harm. You can't go around increasing the stress on people's octogenarian parents. This needs to be treated as an assault. George's brother needs to go to jail. And so what's going to happen, George's psychopath, wife-swapping, mentally ill, paperclip Nazi brother? What's going to happen is all the people around you, like Mary McCord, like Andrew Weissman, Benjamin Wittes, Norm Eisen, and other people who have me wrongfully enjoined from even mentioning their names. Can you believe that? That would trigger a corrupt process whereby I could be arrested. And the cops and the foot soldiers carrying out the orders would be like, tell it to the judge. We're not getting involved in any of that. We just enjoy beating people up. All of those people will be brought to justice. Then there's going to be nobody to support and defend George and his criminal brother. They will go to jail. It's a matter of time now. I know it. They know it. Mary McCord knows it too. That's why she's there in the Senate with all this lying and subterfuge. Okay? So we need to investigate these nonprofits. I hope Pam Bondi will do that. Obviously, this video is too long for Pam Bondi to watch, but hopefully somehow she finds out what's going on. Maybe she already knows. So it was a successful test of the failover system, but it's still not impervious to failure. It's disappointing. Really, if this buffer was automatic instead of asking me, hey, you've just been disconnected from the internet, do you want to reconnect? Why doesn't it just automatically do that? I don't understand software engineers sometimes, but there that is. Anyway, I should check the internet. Maybe Pam Bondi has already been confirmed. How long does it take to do that? Oh, well, there's a problem. It looks like my, oh, no, okay, right. Oh, that's a nice dog. Yeah, they told us that Pam Bondi has a Saint Bernard. Is that a Saint Bernard? Is this a Saint Bernard?
Not mine.
Burmese mountain dog. Did you have to go to Burma to get it?
Andy, hold on.
Very, very nice and large dog. But they told us that Pam Bondi has a Saint Bernard. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know if Pam Bondi has been, maybe not yet. Anyway. Yeah, so see, just like Adam Schiff and Mary McCord realize that they're pretty close to having their gooses cooked, they're never going to say, oh, okay, you got us. They're always going to pivot to the next thing. They're going to lie until the last moment, make up nonsense, just like George's brother. Pivot to their next crazy thing. He realizes that it's very likely that his case is about to end. So what he's attempting to do is start another nonsense case against my father in another jurisdiction before he gets enjoined. The relief I'm requesting is an injunction that would prevent him from ever suing me or any member of my family without first obtaining leave of the court. And I think he knows that that's a pretty likely bit of relief. I don't know if you realize, but your shoe is untied. You might trip. So he realizes that it's pretty likely that he might get enjoined from ever suing me or anybody in my family again. So he's trying to start his next frivolous lawsuit before that happens, because it will become very complicated to unwind once it gets filed, and he knows that. Doesn't matter. It's going to continue, as Larry Klayman would say, to get shoved up his ass. And everything he does now is only making it worse for him. Now, I've said this many times, but he's obviously not going to do it. The smartest thing for him to do is roll up his tent and go the fuck away forever. Don't ever contact me again. And just get lost. Anyone who thinks, oh, Jason is beefing with George, this crap does not go on for 8 years. Even if his brother is just mentally ill and has some issue with what I've said on YouTube or whatever, there is no way even a lunatic could sustain such a campaign for 8 years. The amount of money and time and effort and distraction from other things that every person needs to do. Not to mention, if he's that crazy, there should be some other bit of nonsense that attracts his crazy attention. And that hasn't happened. The only time you stay at something persistently for 8 years like that is when it's your job and you're getting paid to do it. Look at all these people who don't want to be photographed on the streets of New York. What is it that you're doing? There's cameras everywhere. Actually, I have one other plan for how I could further fortify this network. I guess we'll activate that plan now. And we'll see. We'll have to do this walk again and see. I'd like to get it to the point where walking around New York City, it just becomes an absolute rarity to have a disconnect from the internet. Maybe that's not realistic. I don't know if that can be done with 2025 technology. It's pretty good what we're able to do now, but always good if you can make things better. It's actually warming up. It's in the 40s. It feels kind of warm walking around with all this bundled up gear. Do we have more people out today than we did on the freezing cold days? Maybe. So, right, we've got our congestion pricing in place now. I don't know, maybe it's helped to alleviate congestion. It's very possible. Get a lot of bad takes on the internet. You know, internet millionaires like, oh, who cares about $9? It's like, well, when you have to pay it every day of the week, that's an additional $45 a week, you know, $200 and something a month. There's a lot of people who are sort of like already on the edge in terms of how much money they earn and how much they have to pay each month. I'm one of those people. The $9 was offensive to me. Thanks again to everybody who sponsors the show. If you don't, please visit odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. Become a sponsor. You choose the amount, as little as $3 per month. You can sponsor the show. That looks like an accident waiting to happen. You can help support independent technology, Odyssey itself, and you get access to a huge library of sponsor-exclusive content. Oh yeah, right, so they've decided that it was unconstitutional to enter the weed stores and take all their stuff and close them down. And that the Sheriff Miranda, the New York City sheriff, who was appointed by Eric Adams, he got in a lot of trouble. They were talking about this last night on the Finest Unfiltered X Space. And they said that it was total department, you know, they articulated very well what the problem was. I remember when I saw the video of Eric Adams just grabbing a bag of weed and smelling it. It's like, wait a minute, what the hell are you doing? You're the mayor. You're not supposed to be sniffing weed. But they pointed out that this is the evidence. And here's the mayor is handling the evidence. He's sniffing the evidence. They're supposed to have all of that evidence cataloged, like, I forget what the term they used was, but give you a receipt for it. Like, it's not for them to play around with and you know, publicly destroy, particularly after it's been illegally seized. It just shows how utterly lawless they are. Now, one of the things they said is that this was illegal cannabis, and Eric Dinn, I think, said that he wasn't sure how it could be illegal cannabis if cannabis is now legal. I'm not sure either, but I would think that the issue is there's people who have paid the state or the city for a license to operate. It's like the difference between just setting up a thing right here and mixing drinks on the sidewalk and selling them to people versus having a liquor license and selling it out of a bar. They also went into some detail, though, pointing out the distinction between the liquor licensing authority and the cannabis. You know, there is some state cannabis something or other. I'm sure that's not corrupt at all, but it would strike me that there's, you know, money going to somebody to get that license, and that if you're running one of these stores that doesn't have a license, the somebody who gets the money would be motivated to crack down and shut your place down. Certainly to at least eliminate the competition for the people who have been paying for the licenses. I think I read somewhere that it's like $20 million for that license. That can't be right, but it seems high. How could you make enough money? I mean, maybe you do. Selling weed, $20 million? I don't know. It seems high. But there's a whole lot of corruption around that whole NYC sheriff's shutting down of the weed. Something weird going on there. But there you go. That's basically the rant for today. Anti-lawfare discussion, tests of the new system, see where it succeeds and where it fails. Boy, it's going to cost even more money to shore it up in the way that I'm anticipating. Stuff out of business. But it's okay. It's an investment in making the show better. So again, we have more evidence here that I just don't think it was deliberate harassment the other day. Although I don't know, it could have been a mix of deliberate harassment and not using that other system correctly. Just don't know. We'll have to wait for the next Juan Mershon, whatever kind of nonsense they had going on in the park there with Miles Guo operatives and all that. But yeah, I mean, you know, the more we see this, the more we're exposed to this lawfare and its various operations, the more we're beginning to understand it, I think. I mean, again, this is like a reverse engineering. David Hawkins would like this. This looks like somebody smashed the bus stop. Where's the glass? Oh, it's a bicycle parking thing. Maybe it's not even a bus stop. Huh. These people making right on reds. You can't do that in New York. I mean, obviously they just did it. Yeah, Weissman's got to go to jail. Mary McCord has to go to jail. So that article in, what was it in? Conservative Treehouse. It was very good. I didn't know these details about Mary McCord being the amicus in the court, the FISA court. I mean, again, to me, that's not the judge getting tricked. That's not a coincidence that she got that assignment. There's backroom shenanigans going on in the court. We need much more transparency in the court. And the first place we should start is every single district court proceeding should be live streamed on video to a server controlled by somebody who's not the judge or not even in the judicial branch. We need like civilian oversight of the judicial branch. Why don't we have that? Because there's just way too much freedom for these judges and their clerks to do all kinds of crooked stuff. And we got a lot of evidence that they did. That they do. This is like their normal practice. Crooked shenanigans. Very upsetting. I guess maybe congestion pricing has reduced congestion, but the other thing that people are talking about is that means there's less people doing business in New York City. So you're taking business, again, away from people, giving it to the government, sort of like that UPS ticket scandal. The driver doesn't care. The city capitalizes on the fact that the driver doesn't care. I see tickets all over UPS vans and FedEx trucks. And it definitely just translates into the cost of shipping. So it's people that are paying for that. Maybe the city should come up with some, if they really cared about parking enforcement rather than just stealing money from everybody, they could come up with another method, like maybe, I don't know, ticket the driver individually, make it so that you're not allowed to drive that type of vehicle there after a certain number of tickets, so that FedEx tells the drivers, oh, you can't do that. I mean, this is just the method that they do it. They park the truck, they get 1 million tickets, deliver the packages, and that's it. Crooked method. There's a scheme hidden, it seems, in virtually everything. And you wind up paying for it. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Please become a sponsor if you aren't already. Visit odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. This was a suntanning place. I could never understand how that was in business in the first place. Odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth for as little as $3 a month plus a 58-cent Odyssey fee. You can sponsor the show, access sponsor exclusive content. Also go to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. This is also traditionally an area with a lot of interference. There you go. So see, it's some kind of new, this is where they put up those new things on the poles. So there's something in there that's doing something. I don't know exactly what, but going to continue to try to resist. Thanks for watching.